"You're not marriage material like he is," she said while I had the ring in my pocket. Those words would echo in my mind for weeks afterward, but at the time I was too shocked to fully process what Whitney had just revealed about herself. I work as a marine salvage specialist in Miami, spending my days recovering lost treasures from the ocean floor, and I thought I'd found my own treasure when I met Whitney 2 years ago at a charity gala for ocean conservation. She operated a boutique fitness studio in the design district and seemed genuinely interested in my work, asking thoughtful questions about underwater archaeology and marine preservation that made me believe we shared similar values about respecting the past and building something meaningful together. Our connection felt instant and authentic, leading to an engagement 6 months ago that I thought was the beginning of our forever. I had spent weeks planning the perfect moment to present her with my grandmother's engagement ring, a vintage piece from the 1940s that had been passed down through 3 generations of women in my family, each one wearing it with pride and passing along stories of enduring love. The ring wasn't flashy by modern standards, but it carried decades of family history and represented the kind of lasting commitment I wanted to build with Whitney. I chose a quiet evening at her apartment, with candles and her favorite wine, thinking the intimate setting would highlight the emotional significance of what I was offering her. When I opened the antique velvet box and explained how my grandmother had worn this ring for 57 years of marriage, how my mother had treasured it during her own 30-year partnership with my father, Whitney's reaction was nothing like I had imagined. She barely glanced at the ring before rolling her eyes with obvious disappointment, telling me it looked cheap and outdated, nothing like the Instagram-worthy pieces her friends had received from their partners. She suggested I return it to whatever vintage shop I'd found it at and get something more appropriate from Tiffany or Cartier, something that would photograph well for social media and actually reflect her status in Miami's social scene. I sat there holding my family's legacy while she scrolled through engagement ring posts on her phone, showing me examples of what she considered acceptable, completely dismissing the sentimental value and emotional weight of what I was offering. Her reaction revealed a side of her I'd never seen before. Someone who measured love by price tags rather than meaning, who valued appearance over authenticity in ways that made me question everything I thought I knew about her character. What made the moment even more devastating was that her best friend Savannah had stopped by unexpectedly during this conversation, witnessing Whitney's cruel dismissal of my family heirloom and her demands for something more expensive and showy. Savannah stood in the doorway with a shocked expression, clearly uncomfortable with what she was hearing, and I could see genuine sympathy in her eyes as Whitney continued her materialistic rant about ring styles and brand preferences. After Whitney stormed off to take a phone call about some studio emergency, Savannah approached me with obvious concern, quietly expressing her shock at her friend's reaction and mentioning how beautiful and meaningful she found the vintage ring. She told me that any woman should feel honored to receive such a treasured family piece, that the history and love it represented were worth more than any expensive modern setting, and her words provided the first comfort I'd felt since Whitney's rejection. Savannah's response highlighted everything that was missing from Whitney's reaction: appreciation for sentiment, respect for family traditions, and understanding that the most valuable gifts come from the heart rather than a high-end jewelry store. The devastation from Whitney's rejection left me questioning everything I thought I knew about love and commitment, and I found myself unable to focus on work or sleep properly for days afterward. Savannah reached out 3 days later, suggesting what she called a healing adventure away from Whitney's toxic energy, and before I could overthink it, I found myself booking 2 tickets to Dubai for an impulsive 3-day escape that felt completely unlike my usually cautious nature. She had connections in the yacht charter industry through her work as a coordinator, and within hours we were aboard a stunning luxury vessel in the Persian Gulf, surrounded by crystal-clear waters and the glittering skyline of one of the world's most magnificent cities. The contrast between Whitney's materialistic demands and Savannah's genuine appreciation for experiences over expensive displays became apparent immediately, as she marveled at the sunset reflections on the water rather than focusing on the yacht's price tag or posting endless social media updates. We spent our days exploring hidden coves, snorkeling in pristine waters, and having conversations that revealed depths to Savannah's personality I'd never noticed while she was overshadowed by Whitney's dramatic presence and constant need for attention. She asked thoughtful questions about my marine salvage work, genuinely interested in the historical significance of the artifacts I recovered rather than just the monetary value, and she shared stories about her own family traditions that showed she understood the importance of preserving meaningful connections across generations. Her respect for family history became even more apparent when I showed her my grandmother's ring again, and she held it with the reverence it deserved, asking about the women who had worn it before and the love stories it had witnessed. On our final evening, as we watched the Dubai fountain show from the yacht's deck with the city's lights creating a magical backdrop, I felt something shift inside me that had nothing to do with rebound emotions and everything to do with recognizing genuine compatibility. The fountain's choreographed display seemed to mirror the natural rhythm Savannah and I had found together, and when fireworks began exploding from nearby yachts in celebration of some local festival, the moment felt like destiny rather than coincidence. I found myself pulling out my grandmother's ring, not because I was trying to replace Whitney, but because I finally understood what it meant to offer this family treasure to someone who would truly cherish both its history and the love it represented. Savannah's tears were immediate and genuine when I asked her to marry me, telling her that I wanted to build something real with someone who appreciated meaningful gestures over expensive displays, and her acceptance came with words about feeling honored to wear something with such deep family significance. She slipped the ring onto her finger as champagne toasts erupted from surrounding vessels, their occupants celebrating our spontaneous engagement without knowing our story, and I realized that sometimes the best decisions are the ones that feel completely right in your heart before your head can interfere. I live-streamed the proposal moment on social media, not for attention but because the joy felt too beautiful not to share, capturing Savannah's radiant smile and emotional response as she admired how perfectly my grandmother's ring fit her hand and her spirit. The proposal video exploded across social media platforms within hours in ways I never could have anticipated, garnering millions of views as people celebrated what they called a genuinely romantic gesture and Savannah's authentic emotional response to receiving a family heirloom. Comments poured in from viewers around the world who were moved by the contrast between superficial engagement ring culture and the meaningful tradition we were honoring, with thousands sharing their own stories about choosing sentimental value over expensive displays. The hashtag Grandma's Ring Wins began trending globally as relationship experts started using our situation as a case study in authentic versus superficial connections, praising Savannah's genuine appreciation and criticizing the materialistic attitudes that had become so common in modern relationships. Whitney discovered our engagement through Instagram notifications while we were still in Dubai, and according to mutual friends, she experienced what could only be described as a complete emotional breakdown when she realized she had lost both her fiancé and best friend due to her cruel behavior and materialistic demands. Her initial reaction was pure rage, as she began frantically calling both Savannah and me, leaving increasingly desperate voicemails that alternated between fury and pleading, accusing us of betraying her while simultaneously begging for another chance to prove she could change. The irony wasn't lost on me that someone who had dismissed my grandmother's ring as cheap and outdated was now devastated to see it being celebrated by millions of people who understood its true value and significance. Our mutual friends found themselves choosing sides in what quickly became Miami's most talked about relationship drama, with most supporting our genuine connection while distancing themselves from Whitney's toxic behavior and entitled attitude. She created multiple social media posts trying to control the narrative, claiming she had been planning to surprise me with acceptance of the family ring and suggesting that Savannah had manipulated the entire situation to steal her relationship. Her attempts at damage control only made the situation worse as people began sharing screenshots of her materialistic demands and cruel comments, creating a public record of her true character that contradicted her revised version of events. The contrast between her desperate attempts to regain control and Savannah's graceful handling of the sudden attention made it clear to everyone watching which of us had made the right choice in partners. Savannah received thousands of supportive messages from women thanking her for showing that genuine love appreciates meaningful gestures over expensive displays, while Whitney faced widespread criticism for her shallow priorities and treatment of family treasures. The viral nature of our story brought unexpected opportunities, with wedding vendors reaching out to offer services and media outlets requesting interviews about our unconventional love story that had captured global attention. What started as a healing adventure in Dubai had transformed into something much larger, a modern fairy tale that resonated with people who were tired of superficial relationship standards and materialism overwhelming genuine connection and authentic love. Savannah and I decided to embrace the momentum of our viral love story by planning our wedding in just 3 months, using her yacht charter connections to secure a stunning oceanfront venue in Nassau that perfectly reflected both our personalities and professional backgrounds. Her industry relationships proved invaluable as we coordinated with Bahamian wedding planners who specialized in luxury waterfront ceremonies, and within weeks we had assembled a dream team of vendors excited to be part of what media outlets were calling the year's most authentic love story. We created a joint wedding #salvage and sale that referenced both my marine salvage career and Savannah's yacht coordination expertise, and the hashtag immediately went viral as our followers eagerly anticipated updates about our unconventional planning process. Whitney's response to our wedding announcements was swift and vindictive, as she began attempting to sabotage our planning by contacting our vendors with false stories about our relationship being a publicity stunt and warning them about potential payment issues. She called our photographer claiming we were using the wedding for social media fame rather than genuine love, contacted our florist with lies about Savannah's character, and even reached out to our venue coordinator suggesting they reconsider hosting what she called a rebound relationship built on betrayal. Her increasingly desperate behavior only strengthened the resolve of our vendor team, who had witnessed enough authentic emotion in our planning meetings to recognize genuine love when they saw it, and several actually shared Whitney's sabotage attempts on their own social media accounts. The wedding planning industry in Miami began rallying around our story, with vendors offering discounted services and upgraded packages specifically because they wanted to be part of something real rather than another superficial display of wealth. Whitney's attempts to convince our mutual friends that Savannah had manipulated the entire situation fell flat as people remembered her materialistic reaction to my grandmother's ring and her cruel treatment of both family traditions and genuine gestures. Our engagement party became a celebration of authentic love as friends shared stories about how our relationship had inspired them to prioritize meaningful connections over expensive displays, while Whitney's uninvited appearance created an awkward confrontation that only highlighted her inability to accept responsibility for her own choices. She arrived wearing an expensive new dress and jewelry, clearly attempting to show what I had supposedly lost, but her obvious bitterness contrasted sharply with the genuine joy radiating from Savannah and our guests. The incident was captured by multiple attendees and shared across social media platforms, with viewers overwhelmingly supporting our happiness while criticizing Whitney's inability to gracefully accept the consequences of her materialistic demands and cruel behavior toward family treasures. Savannah organized her bachelorette party as a unique yacht charter experience in Key West, inviting the mutual friends who had fully embraced our relationship and distanced themselves from Whitney's increasingly toxic behavior over the past few months. The guest list included women from both our professional circles who genuinely celebrated authentic love over superficial displays, and the weekend became a celebration of friendship and genuine connection rather than the typical expensive party focused on material excess. Meanwhile, I planned my bachelor party as a deep-sea treasure hunting expedition with my marine salvage team, combining my professional expertise with celebration in a way that felt authentically meaningful rather than following conventional party expectations. During our underwater exploration off the Florida Keys, we actually discovered artifacts from an 18th-century shipwreck, including a beautiful coral-encrusted compass that I immediately knew would be perfect to incorporate into our wedding ceremony as a symbol of finding true direction in love. The parallel between our parties reflected everything that made Savannah and me compatible. We both chose experiences that honored our values and careers rather than simply following expensive traditions or social media expectations. Whitney's response to being excluded from the bachelorette celebration was characteristically dramatic and self-destructive, as she hired a speedboat to intercept Savannah's yacht charter during their Key West adventure, creating a confrontation that no one saw coming. She arrived uninvited and clearly intoxicated, accusing Savannah of betraying their friendship while the other women rallied to defend the bride-to-be against what they recognized as completely inappropriate behavior. The incident was captured on multiple phones as Whitney screamed about Savannah stealing her life and manipulating me into choosing someone who would never love me as much as she claimed to, revealing the depth of her delusion about our past relationship. Savannah's response was everything I could have hoped for in a partner, maintaining her dignity and composure while firmly establishing boundaries, telling Whitney that friendship requires mutual respect and support rather than entitlement and manipulation. The other women on the yacht supported Savannah completely, with several sharing their own stories about Whitney's toxic behavior and materialistic demands that they had witnessed but never addressed directly until this moment. Video footage of the confrontation went viral within hours, with viewers praising Savannah's calm handling of an obviously unstable situation and criticizing Whitney's inability to accept responsibility for destroying her own relationships through shallow priorities. The contrast between Whitney's erratic desperation and Savannah's graceful strength under pressure created another powerful moment that solidified public support for our authentic love story over materialistic entitlement. Social media exploded with messages of support for Savannah, with women sharing their own experiences of toxic friendships and celebrating her example of maintaining dignity while protecting her happiness and boundaries. Our wedding day in Nassau arrived with perfect weather and an atmosphere of celebration that felt genuinely magical, surrounded by family and friends who had supported our unconventional love story from the beginning and witnessed our authentic connection grow stronger through every challenge. The oceanfront ceremony was everything we had dreamed of, with the shipwreck compass I had discovered during my bachelor party incorporated into our vows as a symbol of finding true direction in love after navigating through deception and shallow priorities. We had decided to live-stream the ceremony for our global supporters who had followed our journey from that viral proposal in Dubai, and thousands of viewers were tuning in to witness what media outlets were calling the year's most authentic wedding celebration. Just as Savannah began her walk down the aisle in a stunning dress that perfectly complemented my grandmother's ring, Whitney made her final desperate attempt to disrupt our happiness by arriving uninvited and declaring her love for me during the processional. Security immediately escorted her away while our guests and live-stream viewers watched the drama unfold, but instead of allowing the interruption to derail our celebration, Savannah handled the situation with characteristic grace and composure. The overwhelming response from our social media followers was immediate support for our love story, with thousands of comments praising Savannah's dignity and criticizing Whitney's inability to respect our happiness even on our wedding day. I incorporated the coral-encrusted compass into our vows by explaining how it represented discovering true treasure in the wreckage of my previous relationship, finding someone who appreciated meaningful gestures over expensive displays and family traditions over material possessions. Savannah's response to Whitney's interruption became the most powerful moment of our ceremony, as she publicly forgave her former friend while maintaining firm boundaries, telling our guests and viewers that love should inspire growth and healing rather than bitterness and revenge. Her gracious handling of the disruption created an even more powerful viral moment that solidified our status as relationship goals, with relationship experts praising her emotional maturity and authentic character in the face of deliberate provocation. The ceremony continued beautifully with heartfelt vows that honored both our individual journeys and our shared commitment to building something genuine together, surrounded by the natural beauty of Nassau's coastline and the support of people who truly understood authentic love. Our wedding #SalvageAndSale continued trending globally as viewers celebrated our triumph over materialism and manipulation, sharing their own stories about choosing meaningful connections over superficial displays and toxic relationships over authentic partnerships. The reception became a celebration not just of our marriage but of the values we represented, with guests and online supporters expressing gratitude for our example of prioritizing genuine love over social media approval and family traditions over expensive expectations. Our honeymoon aboard a private yacht in the Mediterranean became a social media sensation as we shared carefully curated glimpses of our adventures while maintaining genuine privacy and intimacy that felt authentic rather than performative for our global audience. Savannah's natural ability to balance public interest with personal boundaries impressed me daily, as she understood instinctively how to honor our supporters' investment in our story while protecting the sacred aspects of our new marriage from unnecessary scrutiny. We explored hidden coves along the Italian coast, discovered ancient ruins that connected to my passion for historical preservation, and created memories that felt entirely our own despite the continued attention from people who had followed our unconventional love story from the beginning. The contrast between our peaceful honeymoon and the chaos Whitney had created throughout our relationship became even more apparent as we received updates about her increasingly erratic behavior and social media meltdowns following our wedding celebration. However, 6 months after our wedding, something unexpected happened that demonstrated the power of genuine accountability and personal growth when Whitney finally sought professional therapy to address her materialism and destructive friendship patterns. Her therapist apparently helped her understand how her childhood experiences with financial insecurity had created toxic associations between love and expensive displays, leading to the materialistic demands that had destroyed her most important relationships, including ours. Whitney eventually made a public apology video that went viral for completely different reasons than our previous content, as viewers were moved by her raw honesty about learning from devastating mistakes and taking responsibility for her harmful behavior patterns. She acknowledged that her rejection of my grandmother's ring had revealed her shallow priorities and admitted that her attempts to sabotage our relationship had stemmed from jealousy and inability to accept the consequences of her own choices and cruel treatment of meaningful gestures. The video included genuine remorse for her treatment of Savannah, recognizing that she had lost an authentic friendship due to her entitled expectations and materialistic worldview that prioritized appearances over genuine connection and emotional support. 6 months later, Whitney reached out through a mutual friend to request a private conversation, offering a sincere personal apology that went beyond her public statements to acknowledge the specific pain she had caused both Savannah and me. Savannah's response was characteristically graceful, accepting the apology while maintaining healthy boundaries that protected our marriage and demonstrated the emotional maturity that had attracted me to her from the beginning of our unexpected romance. We learned that Whitney had made significant changes in her life, including selling her expensive possessions to pay for therapy, taking a more modest job that aligned with her actual skills, and beginning to rebuild relationships based on mutual support rather than financial benefit. Our marriage continued thriving as we combined our professional expertise to build a marine conservation business that honored both my salvage background and Savannah's event coordination skills, creating something meaningful together that served purposes beyond our own success. The Salvage and Sale hashtag continues trending annually on our wedding anniversary, inspiring other couples to prioritize meaningful gestures over expensive expectations and authentic connection over superficial displays of wealth and status. Our story had evolved from a tale of betrayal and vindication into something more profound about forgiveness, growth, and the power of choosing partners who share your deepest values rather than just your surface preferences and lifestyle aspirations.